When building out a van, one of the first things that come to mind is, your power system. A lot of people say that you absolutely need solar in your build, but having a solar system can be a little bit expensive and it can be tricky to set up. So in today's video, we're going to be going over a couple of scenarios to help you figure out if you really do need solar when you're out there on the road. Welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, this is Camping with Shane. And like I said, today's video is going to be all about solar, so let's just dive right into it. So we're going to be going over a couple different scenarios to help you figure out if you're really going to need solar power in your rig. So starting out with the weekend warrior, so someone who's just looking to take, some weekend trips here and there, and you want to have a little bit of power, to charge your phone, maybe charge your laptop, maybe charge whatever you need, flashlights, maybe run some lights, run a fan, some lower wattage equipment. A portable power station like this Alway 560 watt hour station would be perfect for you because you just buy it, it comes in the box ready to go. You can get a AC inverter, you got DC inverter, you got cigarette plug on here, all just ready to go. You can charge this up at your house. You can charge it off the 12-volt plug when you're driving. You can also get a little foldable solar panel like this to actually charge it off solar without having to wire anything up. You just set the panel up and plug it right in. So that is a great way to have power on the road. Super easy, no setup required. And especially if you don't need a ton of power, if you're just looking to just charge some things up and run some lights and stuff, and maybe a fan. That is perfect. And you can get bigger stations too. That's like a 560 watt hour station. I would say that's a pretty decent. I'd say it's like a mid-sized station, but it's perfect for me. I do a lot of weekend trips and it does fine. So something like that would be great for the weekend warrior, just looking to have a little bit of power while you're out on the road. I'll leave some links in the description of some power stations and foldable solar panels that I would recommend. Yeah, make sure you check those out if you're looking to get one. So now let's talk about scenario 2. If you're looking to go on some longer trips, really be out there and have reliable power all the time on demand. Depending on how much you're going to be using, you could probably go with a station like this as well. You can get a bigger power station because you can, like I said, you can get a foldable solar panel for it when you're posted up. And you can also charge them off of your car just for the cigarette lighter if you're driving a lot. So, especially, if you're road tripping around, driving a couple hours a day, you'll be able to keep that thing topped off, no problem, depending on how much power you're going to use. You can also, for this type of scenario, this is when you could start to think about putting in a hardwired solar system, because hardwired solar systems are super nice because once you install it, it's just there, it's good to go. Your batteries are charging up every day without having to think about it. Depending on the sun too. If you're not in a sunny environment, you're not going to be able to charge. So that's another thing you want to think about. When you're wiring up a system, like a 100 amp hour battery, 100 watts of solar on the roof or 200 watts, that would be decent enough. And then you can also have a DC to DC charger that charges off your car battery when you're driving. So if you're driving a lot. So that's another thing, you don't even need the solar. If you are driving a lot and you have a 100 amp hour battery and you have a DC to DC charger, you'll be able to charge up that battery no problem, just off the DC to DC charger. Me personally, I lived in my van for 4 months over the winter time and I didn't have any solar. I just had one 100 amp hour battery and a 40 amp hour DC to DC charger, and that was perfect for me. I never ran out of power once, but I also didn't use a lot of high wattage appliances. The most I would use is probably 150 watts to use my TV and PlayStation to play video games or watch a movie. So yeah, so if you're just looking to do some road trips and have some power along the way, some reliable power, you could go for a solar system, but it might be a little harder to set up because you got to cut a hole in the roof to feed the wires and stuff. So But if you're looking to have that just reliable power just there, you don't have to worry about it, that's a great option. Or even just having a 100 amp hour battery or 200 amp hour battery with just a DC to DC charger if you're driving a lot. So you don't even need the solar if you just have a nice DC to DC charger and you drive a decent amount. All right, so now let's go over our third scenario. This is full-time living. Now, you know, everyone's situation is different, of course. You could be a weekend warrior and want unlimited power to be able to run an AC and run it, you know, whatever you need to run. So you could have a lot of power for weekend warrior. You could have a very little amount of power. You could have a lot of power for longer road trips, or you could have a little amount of power. And when you're living full time, you could have a lot of power, or you could have a little bit of power. It all just depends on your situation and what you're going to be using. So let's get into the full timers. So starting off again, you could get away with using a power station because they make pretty big sized power stations if you're really just not trying to wire anything up and you just want something ready to go. This is a great choice. You can get 2,000 watt hour power stations. Even like a 1,000 watt hour would be pretty decent. But I would say if you are living full time on the road and you're gonna need consistent, reliable power, you're probably gonna want to put some solar on the roof and have a nice battery bank and a DC to DC charger. So then you'll always be able to charge up no matter what. Even if it's not a sunny day, you could just start your car if you're parked up, or when you're driving, you'll always be charging up your batteries. So you don't even need a ton of solar on your roof. For my van, I'm planning on putting 350 watts of solar, and then I'm gonna have 200 amp hours of battery power. I'm gonna throw in another 100 amp hour battery. And then that's just gonna pair with my 40 amp hour DC to DC charger. And that's gonna be perfect for me because I'm gonna be running a fridge. I'm gonna be running my diesel heater during the winter time, of course. I'm gonna be having lights going. I'm gonna have a rooftop fan. I'm gonna have like outlets for my PlayStation and TV, water pump, all that stuff. So 350 watts of solar, 200 amp hours of battery with a 40 amp hour DC to DC charger. That's a really good amount of power. You know, take it that you're not trying to run an AC all the time, because that's really, there's not a lot of high wattage appliances that the average person uses in a van, you know, unless you're using like an air fryer or like induction stove or like a heated blanket. I don't know, heated blankets really don't take up too much, but AC is really the biggest draw. If you have an AC, that's gonna take a lot of power. So you're gonna need a big power system if you plan on having AC. For your full timers, if you're not driving around a lot, if you're just going from place to place posting up, you could have a little power station. You could have some foldable solar panels that pop out, and because you can get like 2,000 watt hour station and like a 1,000 watt panel, or like 1,000 watts of panels to plug into it. So, and you know, just set up so then you don't have to, you know, you can just bypass all the wiring. You just set up your panels when you get to camp and plug it in, and then it's good to go. No wiring. All right, so there it is. I hope this video helped you decide on if you're gonna need solar or not. And it was pretty basic. I didn't really go into too much detail because I kind of wanted to keep it basic, you know, because there's really not much to it. You gotta think, if you're gonna be using a lot of power, you're gonna wanna have a solar system. If you're not using a lot of power, you probably don't need one. So, you know, you gotta think of it like that. But the easiest way to have power in your van is to just get yourself a little portable power station and a foldable solar panel. Alrighty, well, thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed. And yeah, let me know what you think in the comments. And then we'll see you in the next video.